Please note this podcast is for educational purposes and may contain triggering content. If you're grieving or experiencing mental health issues, please reach out to your local suicide hotline or mental health office for immediate help. And now, let's start the show. Navigating uncertainty. Life feels unbearable for too many right now, and the numbers are staggering. As of this morning, December 21st, at 10:40 a.m. Eastern Time, we've lost 1,044,154 lives to suicide in 2024. This is a tragic leap beyond the already devastating annual estimate of 800,000. Today alone, at this time, 1,308 people have died by suicide, and we still have 10 days left in this year. These aren't just numbers. They're lives. They're brothers, sisters, parents, friends, colleagues. They're people who felt overwhelmed, unheard, or unable to keep going. This is why Navigating Uncertainty exists. This series cuts through the silence, tackling these harsh realities with raw honesty and an unwavering commitment to understanding and support. Over the next few months, we're going to bring you unfiltered conversations, expert insights, and real-life strategies to help navigate the chaos. This isn't about tiptoeing around discomfort. It's about providing practical tools, meaningful dialogue, and hope. Expect to hear diverse perspectives, some hard truths, and powerful stories from different guests. Whether you're seeking clarity, connection, or simply a moment of calm, this series is for those that may be ready to confront the chaos and take control. Let's be clear, not everybody will agree with every perspective that's shared. And that's okay. Navigating uncertainty is about challenging assumptions, breaking stigmas, and embracing open dialogue, especially about suicide and mental health. This is not the time to stay silent. I would love you to join us as we face the storm head-on together. No fluff, no filters, just real talk, meaningful resources, and unwavering hope. And one more thing I want people to understand. You are entitled to your opinion, whatever that is. Let's just be human and respect each other, and respect each other's ability to have an opinion. Let's make every voice count. Let's save lives. Let's do this now, please. Hi there. It's very good to be back. I'm Elaine. This is Suicide Zen Forgiveness. And we are talking today in the new series that I put together called Navigating Uncertainty. I'm going to run by you a number of different guests from all walks of life, and we just want to take a look and see what people are going to do. How are we going to go ahead in this very tumultuous and uncertain time What are some of the tips and what are some of the options people have or feel that they want to try in order to get through, well, let's say the next few years to start off with? There are so many things going on in our world. We have the war in Ukraine, we have Israel and Palestine, we have the American recent election, we have things going on here in Canada, there is unrest in the UK, and all over Europe. It's nowhere is safe. That's why we talk about literally navigating this uncertainty, because we all know we single handedly cannot change the whole world, but we can, in fact, take charge of ourselves. And that's what I'm going to have our guests offer to you today. Today's guest is, I have to say, a very, very dear friend. I call him my brother from another mother because I've never had a brother. And I actually got to meet with him last fall, IRL, as they say, in real life, in person. We had not seen each other since 2012, I believe, was the last time. I firmly believe that not only is he a past man of service, he has a great head on his shoulders, and he really has great ideas on all things. Without any further ado, I want to introduce Mark S. Babbitt. Hello, my bro.
Hello, Elaine. How are you?
I'm much better now that I get to see you.
Ah, that's sweet.
It's it's hmm, we got a whole lot to unpack here today because there's a lot going on, and I just want to touch on one more thing before I let you jump in as well. But I believe your grandfather, your father, yourself, and your son have all been in service to your country. Am I correct?
Actually, yes, and my great grandfather.
Fantastic.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
and many aunts and uncles, and my brother. And yeah, and I was very proud when my second son decided to follow my footsteps in the Air Force. So, yeah, now it's somebody else's problem because I did my part. So it's my grandson's choices now on and granddaughters choices on whether they continue that tradition or not.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for your service, and I know our audience will echo my sentiments. My father was military as well. He was military both in Britain, in Scotland, before we came to Canada, and then he joined the Canadian Air Force as well. When he was getting ready to muster out, he became a veteran peacekeeper
Mm.
and did a tour or two tours actually in the Gaza Strip. And he had done a year or 13 months in Yemen with the British Air Force and had toured in a number of different places, much like many other military families. You know, we didn't move around a lot as much as some of my friends, but that's all part and parcel of being military. You go where you're needed, where you are sent, and that kind of service, I think, is a certain upbringing that leads one to, I think, be more patriotic in a way. To really, you must have a total love for your country in order to serve. I believe that's true of any country.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I love serving my country. I knew I was going to do it from the time I was 12. I was, I don't know, predestined for it. I thought I was going to make it a career, but things changed literally while I was in the military that didn't allow that to happen. But I mean, my parents had to sign an early enlistment form when I was 16 to let me go in when I was 17. That's how sure I was that I was going to serve my country. And um, and I got a lot out of it, and I'm grateful for everything that happened. I also had fun while I was doing it. I got to play football and basketball and baseball for the Air Force Base teams, and so I got to travel literally all over the world, right? So it was a very much a win-win situation, because, Elaine, I was single. I was in from 18 to 22, and you know, growing up around, during that time and seeing, yes, it was hard sometimes to not have the freedom, the personal freedom. If you have a bad day on a regular job, you can just quit, right? And
Yeah.
I didn't have that option, and certainly the days, as the military became more and more privatized, as civilians started bossing
Right.
enlisted people around, which happened in the early '80s.
Yeah.
It lost all of its honor. It lost all of its, for me anyway, it lost its
Yeah.
discipline. And so I knew I wasn't going to renew. But um, we we single guys and gals sat there and watched people that had, a kid, two kids, three kids, a wife, and they were every 18 to 24 months uprooted.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy to watch what they went through as human beings, as families, and their love of countries was tested often, and which makes everything going on in the world right now, especially in the United States, so much more difficult to deal with because of the sacrifices that those families have made and continue to make now. And now the military doesn't know. I mean, we don't even know. Department of Defense guy is a former broadcaster with a a terrible history.
Or may
Even
not.
our history.
It could be someone worse.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know what's happening now. My military friends are just aghast at, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't get out. I have no choice. I have to serve,
Yes. Yes.
and so whatever sacrifices I chose to make, when I was, God, 64 now, so 46 years ago, no, 47 years ago, I enlisted. Um, it's just crazy to think what people are going through now.
Yeah. And you said something in there that I think is really important. And let's take a look at the fact that prior to the influx of civilians in the hierarchy, if you will, because when my father was in, I mean, it was your commander, your uh, CO, all of them were military.
Mhm.
There were
Mhm.
no civilians in any like really high ranking roles. There were civilians that were along with the enlisted, but they weren't really in charge per se. I think we've lost a certain something, and it's not just America. I think it's everywhere in becoming more lax and being less about the pomp and circumstance, which some people maybe thought was just all show. But you hit on the word that seems to be missing everywhere, and that is discipline.
Yeah, and I know whenever I use that word, I know I sound like that get off my lawn guy, and I try not to be that guy. I mean, I'm 64 years old. I have a 17-year-old at home, right? So
Yep.
I I try to keep up. I try to stay contemporary. I try to learn as I go along for his benefit, if nothing else. Uh, maybe once he's off to college, then I'm gonna go, get a Clint Eastwood poster on my wall and be that guy. But for now, I don't have any choice, right? I don't.
No.
I have to try and keep an open mind about stuff like this, and so. But I will tell you, there's still room for that in the world. And I'll give you an example, if you don't mind sharing something really personal right now. My
Please.
As you know, Elaine, my youngest son is a baseball player, and
Yes.
he wants to go to college to play baseball. And so we've been on the college campus tour. We're going to Michigan this weekend. We leave tomorrow to visit colleges in the state of Michigan. And every recruiter who comes to me and or my wife after these visits says something like, your son has the manners that are missing right now. You're and he had a recruiter up at Washington Huskies say, you know, it's really corny, but all of the yes sirs and no sirs and the eye contact and the firm handshake, and like, you surprised me because we just don't see that very often anymore. And so I consider that part of um, the discipline of being a young adult, male or
Yeah.
female. We're missing that in today's world. We're missing that level of respect. Um, and and it was the emphasis for my latest book, Good Comes First, was all based on, in the workplace, we want leaders to emphasize workplace respect as much as we do results. And and we
Absolutely.
and we documented how when we focus on respect as leaders, it actually helps results. Uh, Community service, customer service rates go up 35%. Uh, Employee referrals and retention goes up 30%. Performance, productivity goes up 35%. Profits go up 40%, right? So we know there's a direct line between respect and results. And yet we don't show each other. I mean, we're so divided right now, and not just in the United States. Look what's happening in Europe right now. Look what's happening in South
Everywhere.
Korea right now,
Oh my God.
literally as we speak, right?
Yeah.
And it's all because we are choosing not to show each other respect, and it's a difficult time.
It is, and I'm going to say, okay, and you know, as an audience member, you can write in and have your say as well about what you feel about what we talk about, especially in this series, navigating uncertainty, because we're all looking for ways to handle where we go from here. And this, I think, is such a big point. But I firmly believe that military families, whether it's the mom, the dad, both, the grandparents, what have you, in the military, you are much more likely as a child to have, I'm sorry to say, but better manners because you are brought up within that discipline. It is it is something that is passed on because you can't go to work every day and have to yes sir, no sir all the time and not bring that home and
Yeah.
expect that. And just let me also say Mark's son is an amazing baseball player, and I can say that because I don't like baseball. But since he got into this, I follow baseball way more than I ever had, and I actually know more about it than I ever did. Woohoo! And I'm always rooting for him. But the fact is, he is really, really good. And having those good manners will stand him in good stead. But when Mark says having respect, he's not talking about a one-way street.
Mm-mm.
In business, in life, we're talking about respect of everyone. Whether I work for you or you work for me, or I am the cleaner or I am the CEO, none of that matters. Having respect for others is because they're a human, not because they have a bunch of labels. Respect has to be, to me, through the ranks, but also it has to be earned. And you earn it by how you're taught.
Yeah.
And I believe you can learn to respect others. You can be taught how to properly interact with other humans at any age. You just have to finally be open to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes sense, and I'll tell you, we go one step further in our consulting work, and when we work with business leaders, everything from mom and pop shops to smaller associations to IBM. We put the onus on the leaders to be, and when I say leaders, I don't just mean shift supervisors, I don't mean managers. We're talking CEO, chairman of the board down. They need to be chief role model for respect. And all you have to do, Elaine, right now is look at our political situation here in the US to see that respect is not offered
No.
from the top down here. And that is going to lead to a level of chaos that we don't have any idea how to comprehend yet. I mean, yes, the man was president once before, but he had guardrails then. Now, um,
Yeah.
by the way, it's good for my business, I suppose. Um,
Yeah.
that workplaces are going to become even more divisive, by orders of magnitude more divisive than they are right now, because our role models are telling us that that's okay. It's okay to be to downgrade women. It's okay to downgrade women, people with disabilities, which you know,
Ah,
both of those things drive me crazy because my
mhm.
wife, as you know, Elaine, is in the aerospace industry,
Yeah.
and as a female, and is now an executive in the industry. And for a female to rise to the executive level in the aerospace world is darn near impossible.
Yeah.
So I really take it personally when people disrespect women in the workplace.
Yeah.
And I have a granddaughter with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
So when our leaders denigrate people with disabilities just because of those disabilities, something they can't control at all,
Yeah.
that just drives me crazy. And and because of that now, for 3 weeks, Elaine, and this may not surprise you, I have not watched news. I have stayed, for the most part, off social media.
Yeah.
I am not going to put myself in the position of witnessing that, let alone normalizing that. And that's what's happening. We're normalizing this
Yeah.
behavior. So we can treat each other however we want as long as our side's winning. We don't have to show each other respect. So it's I'm going to step aside for a while, and
Yeah.
at least until January 22nd, mentally, for my own mental well-being. I'll just step aside until this the upcoming transition in the US has happened, and then figure out how much I want to push back, right? But for
Yeah.
now, mental safety is more important to me than
Oh,
being
good.
outraged, than being a anarchist, than being an activist. Mental health is coming first for me.
And exactly why you're here, because this is something that is, near and dear to me. And I am seeing more and more people lose hope. And what terrifies me the most about what you just talked about is the last two generations that have come up are seeing that the elder generations are basically disrespecting everyone. They are cutting a line down the middle and saying there's a them and an us, and making outrageous comments that are so disrespectful and so hurtful, and no one's batting an eye. And it has crossed the border.
Oh yeah.
We're getting it here as well, in Parliament. It's like kids in the sandbox who first learned to have a potty mouth. It's it's totally bizarre to me, because in those hallowed halls you expect to see some decorum.
Not anymore.
And I
Yep.
realize,
Yeah.
I'm older than you. I'm 69 years old now. I'm definitely the older generation. And as much as, I have friends of all ages, I I don't know how to get through to young people that, it's almost stupid. The old adage, you catch more flies with honey, that it's so true.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
costs you nothing.
and I got to
Your
tell you
life.
that's why it's so important that we all keep a decent supply of honey around, because
Yeah.
otherwise we become just as bad as them. And I'm choosing not to become that. Uh, I was probably for a week after the recent election in the U.S. clinically depressed, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't imagine that this is what we had become, and I had to stop and think about it, and I started thinking about all of the things that I count on every day: my wife, my kids, my grandkids, right, my business, um, and I had to be very present in the gratitude space to get out of that funk. And and it didn't help that, or it didn't hurt, sorry, that shortly after the election, my youngest son had a whole week off for Thanksgiving, so we went back to our home in the Sierra Nevada, and we winterized the house, and we were up in the trees and along the river,
Oh,
and so we got to go find some peace in other ways. And again, completely grateful, because I know not everybody has that opportunity, but I literally had to just get away for a while. I just had to go, you know what? Um I love our life in Colorado. I love that my wife is excelling at her work. We've met, mostly through baseball, because I coached forever, as you know. Some amazing people since we moved here, right? We call them our baseball family. And so I'm grateful for everything we have here, but I needed to go to a place where I just wanted flush toilets, a shower, and electricity. And I, I could have chosen a tent, but it was too damn cold outside.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So back to our roots, back to the Sierra for me, just to go, okay, let's think about what's important. Let's think about what we can control and what we can't,
Yes.
because that I see a lot of people just go in complete, and especially on social media. It's why I had to walk away for a while. We can't let this happen. Well,
No.
my friend, it's already happened,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're not going to alter that course, right?
No.
It's
No.
the next 4 years have been laid out in front of us. We know there will be chaos. We know we can't control that chaos, and we have to learn how to survive within it.
Yeah.
And we have to find a way to do that, Elaine, without bad mouthing everybody who believes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, what's
Yes.
going to happen when their Social Security gets cut? What's going to happen when tariffs kick in? What's going to happen when prices, which is the main reason the man was elected here in the U.S., what's going to happen when prices go back up because of his ridiculous economic policies? Well, there's literally going to be millions of disillusioned people saying, "Oh my God, I didn't think this was going to happen to me. I voted for you. You can't do this to me." Well, yes, he can. Yes, he will.